Even after his divorce, Jeff Bezos remains the richest man on planet Earth. He's got a net worth of more than $100 billion. How rich is Jeff Bezos? Well, as a factual matter, he could give $100,000 to every single one of his employees, all 647,000 of them, and still have almost $50 billion left over. And yet, with all that wealth and power, you might hope the press might be skeptical of Jeff Bezos. That's the point of having a free press, right? To afflict the comfortable? No. It's to suck up to the powerful, which they do assiduously. They love Jeff Bezos. Over at MSNBC, the morning anchor called him Bezos Bear.
As a source close to Bezos told me last night, do not poke this Bezos bear.
He's a bear! Bezos Bear! You know how it is. Bezos Bear has a lot, but he only wants more. He's a greedy little bear. So this week, Whole Foods, which Bezos owns, just like the Washington Post, announced a change to its employee benefit policy. Previously, Whole Foods workers could receive health benefits if they worked at least 20 hours a week. Now, the cutoff is 30 hours a week. As a result, and this is not an accident, it's the whole point, almost 2,000 Whole Foods employees will lose health care coverage. Who's going to take up the slack? Well, of course, you will as a taxpayer. In a statement, Whole Foods noted that the move would make the company, quote, more efficient and, quote, better meet the needs of our business. Those needs, of course, are making Jeff Bezos another few dollars, money he doesn't need. Meanwhile, earlier this month, Chick-fil-A opened its first outlet in Canada. A mob of progressive activists was there to protest because of its social policies or the opinions of its owners. You probably won't see any protesters at a Whole Foods anytime soon. The left doesn't care about workers at all. It cares about being woke. Maybe some workers would still have health care if the left cared. Ethan Behrman is a California radio host. He joins us tonight. So, Ethan, where are the protests? I mean, I noticed that the left sucks up to Jeff Bezos as it does to people in power generally. But you'd think somewhere there'd be at least one honest progressive left who would say, hey, Jeff Bezos, why don't you pay for the health care for your employees?
Well, you're speaking to one of them who did speak up. I'm not afraid to poke the Bezos bear. And I think it's totally wrong. For roughly $1 million a month, he is throwing 2,000 part-time workers, out to the wind. It's terrible. It's tragic. It's beyond ridiculous. And I hate, as much as maybe you do, or maybe more, when people want to tell us what to do and then they don't do it themselves. Jeff Bezos is not leading by example. He's leading with his words.
So it's a pretty clever deal he's figured out. So he buys the Washington Post and turns it into a complete garbage publication, just a pure political operation. But it hits every fashionable note in the progressive symphony. There's not one left-wing idea that they're not 100% behind. And by doing that, he indemnifies himself against any criticism for his business practices from the left. You're the exception. But you get what's going on here?
I do, and I'm oddly, Tucker, to be in agreement with you tonight. I'm uncomfortable with that as well. I'm a loud proponent for speaking to power, regardless of whether or not they're on my side or not. And we must do this. I believe that we have an issue that's happening in our country, from both sides for that matter, where we need to be speaking out when we see something that somebody who supposedly leads on our side is not doing the right thing. We need to be able to call people out. We need to be able to talk about the issues that are happening. And in this case, in my mind, this is where I will probably disagree with you. I think some of the Democratic candidates like Joe Biden and Beto O'Rourke have the right idea, where we need to make sure that we have coverage for all Americans, because under President Trump, we have 2 million more Americans who don't have health insurance for the first time in over a decade, as the Wall Street Journal pointed out.
Weird that Obamacare didn't fix that. I thought it was going to. Super quick, this is something that infuriates me. No one ever mentions it, but Jeff Bezos, on his dividends, on the income he makes from his investments, which is a lot, pays half the tax of someone who works for him for a salary. That's our system. It's grotesque. It's disgusting, actually. It makes the rich richer and the poor poorer. But the left never says word one about it. Why is that?
Well, again, I can't speak for others. I've been very loud about this issue for a number of years. We need to close those loopholes. People need to pay their apportionment. I mean, why should I or his secretary pay less in taxes, like Warren Buffett has pointed out, than he himself?
Right.
We need to fix that, and if Democrats really should address it, absolutely.
Because we tax capital at half the rate of labor, so we penalize work. So you're an idiot if you work for a living. And those of us, I mean,
Yeah, that's right.
Whatever. I don't know many people.
We never
who
closed
live
the hedge
purely-
fund loophole.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. You don't have to be a liberal to think that. Ethan Behrman, thank you. Good to see you.
Thanks, Tucker.